Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. In this video I will talk about Plato and his Republic, and I will talk only a little bit about it. I will read you from one of my favorite books, and this is Plato Republics, and I have all kind of signs and I underline things wherever I do something on the side. I underline, I put exclamation marks, I write notes, so I can come back and reread what I think it was important. And this book is important everywhere. But I will focus on this book on a little part where Plato talks through Socrates. And he explains different kind of values that animals have, like humans being animals, trying to distinguish valuable individuals versus less valuable, or valuable in some skills, non-valuable in other skills. Saying that we're not the same, or it's kind of like a contradiction of the current ideology of egalitarianism, where we're all equal and all that. He didn't think that way. He is very, very much politically incorrect, Plato. If he would come nowadays, he would probably have a apoplectic shock. Now, this book, I was happy to study this entire book, in one semester, plus other books, in the United States of America, in my college here in the university. And I had the honor to meet this professor right here. His name is Arthur Melzer, Professor Arthur Melzer. He is one of my top, I would say 2 or 3 professors, teachers, educators that I had in my entire life. He was intelligent. He still is, as far as I know, he's still alive. He's intelligent, courageous, charming, classy. He came dressed as you see him over there. I met him maybe 2 or 3 years or 5 years maybe older than that. And he came with a tie, with a suit, and he was an example. I admired him a lot, I still do. And I liked his courage. Why? Because aside from his intelligence, because he was challenged many times during the class, because it's not easy to teach people this in the current, not current because it was not yesterday, but still then it was, you always find certain kind of people who challenge this and that, and he was called all kind of supporter of this, supporter of that. You're going to realize when I'm going to read these little passages from the book. Now, in the Republic, Plato makes or tries to speak and talk about, obviously, a perfect society. And this perfect society, he divides this perfect society in three groups of people. And these 3 groups of people are kind of exemplified in this little triangle here. And where you have on top, you have the rulers, the guardians. Then you have the producers, the farmers, artisans, the rest, basically, the rabble. And then you have around the soldiers, their auxiliaries, the law enforcement. And each of these 3, so 1, 2, 3, so let's say soldiers, he called them soldiers, producers, and rulers, or guardians, which they are ruled by the philosopher king. They are part of a caste, and they will be bred, according to Plato, within the caste. So if you're born as a ruler or in a guardian group, you will remain there. You will not be going down, or from the producers you will not go up, and you will have a certain kind of training for that group. The same with the soldiers. You will have a certain kind of training, and you can't really go through one group to another, especially, going up and maybe go down. But he makes the point in the little passages I will read for you here. And remember, this is Plato. Plato lived what? About 470 BCE or something, if I remember correctly. So this comes from book number 5. And if you go to it's page 137, it's paragraph 459a, and it says here. So it's a conversation between Socrates and another guy here, and this is what Socrates asks. His name is Glaucon. That's the name of the guy Socrates speaks to. And he says, "For I see hunting dogs and quite a throng of noble cocks in your home." Cocks, buck, 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 not something else. Anyway, did you, in the name of Zeus, ever noticed something about their marriages and procreation? And Glaucon says, "What?" he says. And Socrates says, "First, although they are all noble, aren't there some among them who are and prove to be best? So among that group, aren't some better than the other ones?" And Glaucon says, "They are." And then Socrates says, "Do you breed from all alike? Or are you eager to breed from the best as much as possible?" Glaucon said, "From the best." Socrates says, "And what about this? From the youngest or from the oldest, or as much as possible from those in their prime?" Then Glaucon says, "From those in their prime." So, making the point, some kind of, I can't really say it, but you know what I'm trying to say here, right? What Plato is saying, actually not me. From those in their prime. And again, Plato said, "And if they weren't so bred, do you believe that the species of birds and that of dogs would be far worse for you?" And Glaucon says, "I do," he said. And again, Socrates says, "And what do you think about horses and the other animals?" I said, "It is in any way different?" Socrates asks. And Glaucon says, "That would be strange." And then Socrates says, my dear comrade," I said, "how very much we need eminent rulers after all, if it is also the same with the human species." Did you get that? And again, I'm quoting, "On the basis of what has been agreed," I said, "there is a need for the best men to have intercourse as often as possible with the best women, and the reverse for the most ordinary men and with the most ordinary women," Socrates says. "And the offspring of the former must be reared, but not that of the others, if the flock is growing to be of the most eminent quality." And I'm quoting again, "And all this must come to pass without noticed by anyone except the rulers themselves, if the guardian's herd is to be as free as possible from faction." And Glaucon says, "Quite right." So then, Socrates says, I'm quoting, "So then, certain festivals and sacrifices must be established by law, at which will bring the brides and grooms together, and our poets must make hymns suitable to the marriages that take place. The number of the marriages will leave to the rulers in order that they may most nearly preserve the same number of men, taking into consideration wars, diseases, and everything else of the sort, and thus our city will, within the limits of the possible, become neither big nor little." And the Glaucon says, "Right." That's kind of control of certain kind of population, isn't it? And he says here, again, I'm quoting Socrates, Plato. So I think they will take the offspring of the good and bring them into the pen. The certain nurses who live apart in a certain section of the city, and those of the worse and any of the others born deformed, they will hide away in an unspeakable and unseen place, as is seemly. This is what this guy says, I'm reading. If he said the guardian's species is going to remain pure, and again, Plato says, won't they also supervise the nursing, leading the mothers to the pen when they are full with milk, inventing every device so that none will recognize their own? So he talks about separation. So remember, this is Plato's Republic. This is Plato's Republic, and what I read here is what Socrates says, and he gives some ideas of how to create the best city, the best society, the perfect society. And as I said, this book is just a, I don't want to say, is a helper. Is a helper when you can look at the society, and it's very interesting. And there are many passages. I mean, how many pages are like 500 or something? 470 something. So this is a very, at times, hard book because it comes in dialogue. Plato makes his point in dialogues. So then it's hard to really pinpoint in certain moments what the hell this guy is talking about. And I feel humbled, and I felt humbled when I read this one, and there were passages I didn't know what this guy is talking about. It didn't make sense. Now, there are other books that can explain book, but Professor Melzer was a very good professor, and he explained each and everything the way we're supposed to understand it. You know, like you go to the, I don't know, Bible school. Is that how you call it? Bible class, Bible school, Bible something, Sunday Bible something. They explain to you, I guess. I've never been to one. I read books about explanation of the dogma, and you know, you read the dogma and you're like, what the hell is this? And then there are other books, you know, that explain the dogma, and the same, how you are supposed to understand what those guys were saying over there. There's no other way. That's the acceptable version. That's how they did with Plato, and Melzer, Professor Melzer, expressed his view on this, and I guess the acceptable view. He was a professor after all, and he was, as I said, very knowledgeable, very intelligent, very deep. So anyway, this is with Plato's Republic, talking about certain things. You know, this is what Plato said. Again, it's not me saying that. And I don't think the Republic is a banned book in the United States yet. I foresee that to happen with all these, you know, situations that we live through as a society. I hope it doesn't happen, because this is a very, very intelligent, very deep book. You also have the allegory of the cave in this one. If you're familiar with that one, very interesting, again, allegory. And I very much recommend this book, or at least listen to some videos or read some explanations, some summary on the book, and so on. It's very, very enlightening. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.